Speaker this morning thought he was going to get this done this week. Congressman, is there a path forward?
Well, Joe, it's good to be back with you and Kailey. Well, Speaker Johnson had an agreement between Judiciary Chairman Jordan and Intelligence Committee Turner that we could go to the Rules Committee, that we would have the Intelligence Committee be the base text, and that we would take amendments on the House floor. And a few members, led by Matt Gaetz and others, took that rule down. In other words, they blocked the bill from being called up for the very debate they want to have. So it's very frustrating today. This bill is important. A renewing 702 authority, which allows us to monitor communications from our adversaries outside the United States, not American citizens, It is non-negotiable. That has to be renewed before April 19th. And it's attached to a bill that Mike Johnson was explaining in your clip there that has 56 reforms on FISA generally, how the court works, that puts penalties on FBI agents that don't follow the rules. You can have jail time now if you don't follow the rules. And this bill, if it were enacted, would block any future Russia, Carter Page hoax that Donald Trump went through, and even some of the machinations that Hillary Clinton went through with Jim Comey.
Well, Congressman, you bring up former President Trump. He, of course, weighed in on this issue in the wee hours this morning. He said, and I quote on Truth Social, "Kill FISA. It was illegally used against me and many others. They spied on my campaign." Sir, how much blame should be cast on Donald Trump for today's failure?
Yeah, I think the president is absolutely wrong here. In fact, this whole bill, those 56 reforms that Mike Johnson has described that are posted out there for all Americans to read, would have absolutely prohibited what happened to President Trump. And he, if he were elected president this fall, would absolutely want to have the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act reauthorized. And he cannot do his job, in my view, as president and keep America safe without the Section 702 authority to monitor communications of our rivals, terrorists, and adversaries outside the boundaries of the United States.
Well, so is the way to handle this then, Congressman, if you are going to see a renewal or an extension of FISA, going to have to involve a visit to Mar-a-Lago?
Well, I believe that many have talked to him. This bill that we're talking about today is supported by former Secretary Pompeo, who also led the CIA, DNI, the Director of National Intelligence for Donald Trump, John Ratcliffe, Donald Trump's National Security Advisor, Robert O'Brien, Donald Trump's former Attorney General, Bill Barr. Every one of these men who know this subject intimately recommend that these reforms be enacted and that the power to conduct surveillance under 702 outside the United States be reauthorized.
Well, sir, as we talk about the reforms attached, should we rule out entirely the possibility that instead of these various reforms going through, that a clean extension gets put into place after April 19th?
Right. No, this is so important. Thanks for asking that question, Kailey. Yeah, that's the alternative. And what a shame that would be for President Trump, who demands reforms to the FISA. And for other members of Congress who've worked so hard for a year doing the investigations necessary to write these reforms. A clean reauthorization of FISA would leave things as they are. And you're right, it would reauthorize 702, which would be, I would support reauthorizing 702. But it's a mistake not to take advantage of the situation right now and get these concrete reforms that protect the Fourth Amendment, protect the privacy here in the United States, rein in the outrageous abuses by the FBI under James Comey and others during the Trump administration. The time is now, and it's a perfect opportunity to take a win.
Well, this was what we were told was most likely to happen, or at least would happen first upon lawmakers' return to Washington this week. Congressman, I know you're dealing with a roughly 2-week work period, and there are questions about whether the matter of Ukraine funding could be handled in that time. Someone you know well, Sarah Chamberlain, who runs the Republican Main Street Partnership, was with us yesterday, having just polled her 90 or so members, and predicted that aid for Ukraine could pass in the next week. Here's how she put it. We'll have you respond.
It's going to pass either this week or very early next week, without question.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ukraine.
We haven't seen the text yet.
It's going to pass. They really want to get this moving and get this done, and they want to help Ukraine.
I don't know what would prompt that to happen. It would be a land speed record, I guess, in the House here, Congressman. Do you agree?
Well, I agree that we need to pass lethal aid assistance for our allies, Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel, and we should have done it back in October and November, Joe, as you and I have talked many times. So I'm supportive of doing that. We have not seen text from Speaker Johnson on how he would propose handling this assistance, but he's committed to me that he supports it. He knows we can't let Putin win, and the American people, Democrats, Republicans, and independents across this country, including Republican primary voters, do not want Vladimir Putin to win. The time to draw the line against authoritarians in this world invading other sovereign countries is now. It's no longer the Obama administration and the Biden 2.0 foreign policy. We need to stop this now, and the place to do it is passing this supplemental assistance for Ukraine, for Taiwan, and for Israel.
Well, Congressman, I don't need to tell you that not all of your colleagues are in agreement with you on that. One in particular, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, is potentially even willing to try to oust the speaker over this issue if Ukraine aid goes to the floor. Do you, Congressman, think that if you get a chance to vote on Ukraine aid, that it is more likely than not you will also have to decide who you're going to vote for to be the next Speaker of the House?
I think members of the House are tired of those annex. Speaker Johnson is doing the best he can with the hand that's been dealt. The mistake was last fall when 8 members of the Republican conference worked with Democrats and threw Kevin McCarthy out of the office. All the things that we're talking about today, FISA, the supplemental appropriation for Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel, and even what we just completed, FY24 spending, all those things were on track to pass last fall under Kevin McCarthy's leadership. So, look, Mike's got a tough hand here, but he's making the right decisions, and he's trying to get these important measures across the House floor, and I want to support him in doing that.
Well, that's interesting. Congressman, you remind us it was Matt Gaetz, I believe, who was responsible for Kevin McCarthy being ousted. Are you suggesting that's the same member of Congress who's stopping FISA now?
Well, he certainly spoke against it in our House conference meeting, and he was one of the people who voted to take down the rule today. So I believe he doesn't like the fact that the Intelligence Committee bill has these 56 reforms and yet does not include a warrant, what's called a secondary warrant, which would require probably 2,000 new Biden appointed federal judges in order to comply with something of that magnitude.